All right. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is a little bit after 12 o'clock Central Standard Time, which is earlier than our normal Book Talk Live time. We're doing a special edition today. The young man that you see in front of you has a few events that he has to get to around the time that we normally go live. So we're doing it early today. But I want to introduce y'all to a brand new Amazon #1 best-selling author, Mr. Warren Smith. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing well. I'm just ecstatic about where I made it to already with my new book. So thank you so much for the work you've done.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, and listen, today is all about you. It's not about it's not about me. We want to introduce
Okay.
the world. Yeah, we want to introduce the world to Mr. Warren Smith. So, I can go on and on about you. Know a lot of great things about you, including one of my favorite. Just happen to be brothers sitting on that trail. So
You probably bought that paddle from me too. I used to sell Masonic stuff.
hey, I might have.
I had a bookstore. I did a bookstore years ago.
Yes, sir. So tell the people a little bit about yourself. Tell them who you are and a little bit of your backstory.
All right. My name is Warren Smith. I'm a native of Inverness, Mississippi, in the Mississippi Delta. And I joined the military right after that. And I finally ended up here in San Antonio, which is where I met Mr. Destin. But just to give you a little back, I'm going to start at the end and then kind of go back to the beginning. I just completed my first novel, a biography of me, Leave the Dirt in the Cotton Field. And basically that when people see that title, they wonder what am I talking about? There's two separate things going on every day in all of our lives. One is we have a home life, and two, we have that business life when we go out and deal with all these people out here in the world, the COVID, the Delta variant, and now the Omicron. We're dealing with them in so many different ways. So leave the dirt in the field. The field is out there. We always go out to the field. When they say get on the ball field, you go out to the field. Say go out to the cotton field, you get out to the field. So the field is outside of your home and your personal space and your personal life. So when I say leave the dirt in the field, you leave all that bull that you get out there. Don't bring it home to your family. You stick to your protocols that you learned from our ancestors long time ago. And just a case in point, in the 1950s and 60s, our Black population had, 67% of better wages than we have now. In today's wage, we only about 35-40%. But how can they do better 30-40 years ago than we're doing now? They do better because they never lost sight of their family values and the unity that they express. And what we're doing right now is something that I'm excited about, because we should be working together and coming together on forums like this one right here. Writing this book, I think I started back in 1980 something. And it's hard to write a book when you're on the move all the time. I was a rapid deployment force type guy, reconnaissance type person, logistician, Persian missile type man, an Army recruiter. I did some of everything you can think of in the military. About close to my time to retire at 21 years, I went to Wayland Baptist University and obtained a bachelor's degree in human services, which gave me a catalyst to my position after the military. In order to be a manager at Boeing Aerospace Support Center, you had to have at least a bachelor's degree. And I went in to work there as a manager. And I've been kind of radical all my life. And I think what started me on this journey was when I went downtown in Inverness to the little strip, one strip, 500 people, to get me a cone of ice cream. I had a nickel. I bought me a cone of ice cream. And I was walking back down the sidewalk and I saw probably 25, 40 feet in front of me, a black man, you know, he leaned on the back of the wall with one foot up. That's how he was. And across the street was the sheriff. And the sheriff was a big old fat burly guy with a big belly. And he walked with a swagger, you know, like this. And he walked over there with his gun hanging down on his side. And he walked up to that black man and stood in front of him and said a few words. And I'm walking towards them. And the next thing I saw was he grabbed that black man by the collar, boom, 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 slammed him up against the wall, and then pulled his revolver out and put it to his head. And he kept talking. And I froze. I was right here with my cone, not moving, because I think he put me in shock. So then he took his gun back in his holster, said something else, did it again, and then did this again too, put his gun to this black man's head. Oh, man. And I'm still standing there. And so then he let him go and he strolled his big old coon dinghy back across the road and got in his car. So by the time I came out of my little shock, I had ice cream dripping off my elbow because I didn't move while all this was going on. And I'm 8, 9 years old watching this, and it pissed me off. I'm just being honest. It really pissed me off. My objective, and I think I wrote about it in the book, is that I had all the intentions to kill this man. Mm-hmm. And at 9 years old, and I said, the only way I'm going to be able to get as qualified as I want to be is to go in the military and learn some weaponry, learn how to handle guns, learn how to do tactics, learn how to be a sniper, all this different stuff. And I had the perfect layout. You know, not thinking he's going to get old and retire sooner or later before I get back to hometown. So he used to park where he parked at. I could go on the other end of the black side of town, which is a thing they call a grain elevator, which has silos, tall tubes, 200, 300, 4 stories tall. And my friend's dad worked there. So we could go up to the top and look back over the town. So I used to go up there with him and I could see that car. I could see through the back window and I could see his head. And I told my buddy, Dennis, this is where I'm going to lay and pop that man. You know, I had it all laid out and then I went to the Army and stayed gone for 21 years. So I never got around to it. But in the last part of that, my sister ended up being his caretaker when he got old. Oh, and yeah. And you can imagine what she did. Yeah. So that's my story in a nutshell, but there's another 16 hours I could go and talk and tell you about it. But where do we need to go from here?
Yeah, man. Listen, I know there's a lot of stories, there's a lot of history that you can share with us. And your journey doesn't just stop there. Right. It starts in Mississippi and it continues on. So tell us, you know, you say you went to the military. You told us you shared an interesting story yesterday about how you got into the military and how the branch changed. You want to share a little bit of that?
Yeah. You know, I'm going to go ahead and reveal this, and this is something that I would never admit, but I'll tell you that this is just a story. I was 15 years old and probably the biggest nickel bag dealer in Inverness because I used to have a shoebox full of nickel bags and sold nickel bags. So I was heavy into the weed market and I was signed up for the Army. And I don't know if I told you, I was so busy making that money out there. I was cutting grass, selling weed, doing all kinds of little things, being a gangster. I forgot about school. So I'd be up all night doing my thing, and then I go to school and I go to sleep in my English class. And Miss Shortridge eventually flunked me for English. So without having my high school diploma, I was a senior. I couldn't go to the Army. So I had to go to summer school that year and get my English certificate so I could get my diploma. So then I went to the military in August. And so by going to the military in August, I had to go to I wanted to be a Marine because, like I said, I wanted to be a sniper. So I finally get an appointment to go down to the Marine's office. He picked me up in Inverness, took me over to Greenville to the recruiting station. And he's going down the question line and he said, "Do you smoke marijuana?" And I said, "Shit, yeah, man, I could tear it up." I'm thinking, hey, that's part of the norm. We're going to do that while we going in. So he said, "Mr. Smith, I'm sorry. You can't go in the Marine Corps like that." I said, "Well, what we going to do then?" He said, "I'm going to take you over to the Army's office and see if they can take you in. But I'm going to tell you right now, don't tell them that you smoke weed." So I went over there and I ended up going into the Army as what they call a 63 Bravo, a light wheel vehicle, actually a 63 Charlie, a tank and turret mechanic, a diesel mechanic. Yeah. So I went to school 6 months at Fort Knox, Kentucky to be a diesel mechanic, and I got pretty good at it. That's that story.
All right. Well, listen, I know there's so much more that we're getting ready to share in this next hour. The history of your history coming from Mississippi, military, a lot more of the things that you went through as a Black man in America and as a Black man who elevated to higher ranks. We're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial, probably by 2 and 2, and we'll be right back. Okay. Business of Books Mastermind Coaching Program has been around for the past 3 years. Myself as a coach, we've actually helped hundreds of authors get their books published and even more to become Amazon #1 best-selling authors. Over the past year and a half, we started our Amazon bestseller launch program, and 225 plus to date have all become #1 best-selling authors in multiple categories. Now, the reason that we started this coaching program is for people like you who you've either just started working on your first book and you don't know where to go with it. You're looking for a blueprint to creating your book. You're wondering how to market your book. You're wondering about how to connect with your audience. And most importantly, how am I going to sell this book and create income from it? These are all things that we teach you inside of 90 Days to Bestseller. The reason that this program is relevant to you is because you want to write that book and you want to be successful. Now that person may not be you. Here's the opposite. You've already written your book and you want to relaunch it as a bestseller. Been there, done that. My first book, I actually changed the cover twice for that exact same reason. The first cover, I loved it. But for some reason, after a while, it got stale. It was sitting on the shelf. So I created my own cover. Bad idea, right? The reason that it was a bad idea is because it looked like somebody was creating a network marketing flyer for my book. Went back and let a professional do it. Keyword, professional. Once that professional got their hands on my book, changed the book cover, it created a completely different vibe for my book. And here's what we've done as a result. From that change, from those slight changes, having a professional designer, going and hiring a professional editor, that book has actually launched a career for me that has taken me around the globe. And when I say around the globe, I've spoken at places all across the country and even done a few virtual international workshops here in the past few months. Now, for you, we can show you the exact same thing. We have the blueprint, we have the tools, we have the system that will work to help you get your book published and launched as an Amazon bestseller. Now, how long does it take? Typically, it takes us about 90 days. We're not going to tell you that it's going to be overnight. We're not going to tell you that it's going to be easy, but we will tell you that we have a blueprint that works and you should be next. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Listen, so we are if you are just coming back and just joining us, we are joined today by Amazon #1 best-selling author, Mr. Warren Smith. Um, and he just launched yesterday. We got him to #1 in 9 categories, just that quick. And we're talking about his story of overcoming. He's overcome a lot, and he's going to share a little bit more of that with you. The beginning was just a warm up, just to let you know his personality and know who he is. But I want to talk to you today. Um, if we can talk about some of the things that you've actually achieved, because most people, if they're just tuning in, they're like, okay, I see Warren Smith. Who is he? Um, what are some of the things that you've done over the past few years or past, I don't want to say decades, because that makes you seem, older than the 21 that you are.
I
But
got
yeah, but what are some of the things that you had to overcome, and some of the things that you enjoyed throughout your career?
Well, that's a very good question because I've had to jump some hurdles in my day and time. I left Mississippi because I knew for a fact that I did not want to be out in the cotton field chopping cotton or picking cucumbers or doing something like that. And that was the norm there. You end up growing up, living, working for the plantation, driving a tractor, or doing something like that. And when you drove a tractor, you back then they had no cabooses. There was just a seat and a steering wheel and the stuff you pulled behind you. And by the time you come out of that field, you dusty as hell. You all covered. So that was a portion of what I came up with this title for, because I never forgot seeing those men come out of that field to get lunch or something or to finish their job for the day. That was a real serious point for me in life, saying I know dang well I ain't going to do this. So I got fired from picking cucumbers. I got fired from chopping cotton. I ended up just being a water boy. And this don't sound right, but I'm gonna tell you what it was. I was a hose sharpener. I said that in the book. And a hose sharpener walks around with a file and just file the hose for the people out there chopping cotton. Now that was kind of funny to me. Anyway, I left Mississippi for that reason, and not just that reason only, and joined the military. And it was just a trip. I knew what to do when I went in there because I was a Boy Scout for an Eagle Scout before I left Mississippi. So I could march, I could shoot bow and arrows. I was an outdoors person. I knew how to camp. They call it bivouac in the military. So I did all of that stuff and got very good at being a soldier. And what the process is they're going to detox you where there's nothing left. The only thing you want to do is whatever that drill sergeant say do, you want to be able to get it done because they'll rock your world. You're running all day, you're marching all day, you're carrying 40, 50, 60-pound backpacks. And I remember just one case. We was on a march and we had a big 40, 50-pound rucksack, and we were going 10 miles, and I was going up and down this hill. And this big old white lady, she was probably 6'2", 6'3", about 200 some pounds. She was passing me up. And I said, oh, hell no. I'm sorry to use that word, but no. I buckled down and I got back in front of her. You ain't going to beat me to the finish line. So I did that. And that kind of gave me the motivation I needed. I'm not going to let this woman beat me. But then we get out in the field. We had to catch chickens to eat, and she caught a chicken and pulled the chicken heart out and bit it. I said, oh, I can't touch you. You gone on with that. But, anyway, I went through all of that training, and I went to a lot of training. And I ended up in the motor pool, and I would see working on vehicles, that is, in a garage. They call it the motor pool. I could see how the whites were being promoted, and I'm out there working my butt off doing mechanic work. So I asked my motor sergeant, who was a black guy, Sergeant Boyd. I never forget him. He used to drink rum and Coke all day long in a Coke can. And he told me, he said, man, if you want to get promoted, you got to go to school. And I'm glad he told me that. He told me that my first second year in the military. So by the time I reached the age of 24, I was an E5, what they call promotable, ready for the next rank. So I finally got to where I thought I had gotten promoted. The document, the paper, the Army Times come out and say, hey, these are your scores. If you have scores better than this, then you should be promoted to the next grade. So I'm looking at it. I knew I had a better score than what they were showing, but I hadn't got promoted. Yep. And I asked all my chain of command, no, you ain't promoted yet. You ain't promoted yet. So I'm working. They working me 6 days a week because they already know I'm about to get promoted. So they're trying to put me in a position to get busted and taking my rank. So this is white folks, how they're doing black people in the military in 1977, 78. So I got a day off finally. And when I got that day off, I went over to what they call military personnel records. And I asked to review my record. And lo and behold, as soon as I open up that record, I see my orders saying that, hey, you made staff sergeant 6 months ago. 6 months ago?
Yeah, that's not good.
And so I've been working for the last 5 months in a lower capacity, last 6 months in a lower capacity, because the white boy that was an E5, 20-some years, he was old. He was the sergeant. He made things run in there, but he was sorry. So when I saw those orders, I took a copy back to my organization, and I presented it not to my company commander, which his name was Captain Smith. I presented it to my battalion commander, and my battalion commander gave me what you call a set aside and called the formation, made everybody come out to the parade field and gave me a parade type promotion. So I got that E6, and at that point, I was 24, and like I said, I was the youngest person with the rank of 24 out of about 500 people, and over 250, 300 were white. And they did not like that because in order for me being an E6, I can't work for no E5. So they put me in charge. They put me in charge of the worst organization they had, where they had 45 vehicles that did not run. They had out of 60. 45 of those vehicles was broke. Well, they were tore up in some kind of way, but they were still using the vehicles because nobody had the authority or balls to tell them that these trucks are broke. You're not taking it out on the highway. So when I went in there and did my first initial assessment, 45 of those vehicles were down. So I wrote it on our what they call the deadline report. Those vehicles are not combat ready. So they made me work 7 days a week for the next 6 months to get them ready. Now, all this time, these white folks had been in charge of these vehicles. They had nothing to say. But as soon as I get in charge, they want me to work 7 days a week to get them running. I did it. I got them all running. So one day, my captain, which was a redneck from Germany somewhere, his name was Captain Smith. He came down there and said, you need to put tires on my Jeep, Sergeant Smith. I said, 10-4, no problem, sir. 3 bags full, basically. That's what I'm telling him. And I said, I will get some tires on your Jeep. You make sure you send me your driver with the truck and bring it up here, and I'll get it done. Sergeant Smith, I don't want to hear all that noise and this, that, and the other. So he literally cussed me out by telling him that he needed to do something. No. So I said, he said again, I want tires on my Jeep. So I told him again, I will get it done. Absolutely, 100%. Just have your driver bring me the truck. And he kind of threatened me. You just don't have them on there when it's necessary. So I didn't put tires on his Jeep because he didn't send his driver up there with the Jeep. Now, the benefit of that, I was an avid reader of military policy. So I knew all the policies. And the policy was, you work on no one's vehicle unless the driver is present. Maybe that captain didn't know that. But he gave me what they call Article 15, which is a Uniform Code of Military Justice Action, that's misdemeanor. So it doesn't go up any higher than him. He's the one who executed it. So by the time it was all over, I had 5 Article 15s from that man. And I just knew he was trying to railroad me because I was about to get out of the military in another month or so. They were going to put me out because I had all them Article 15s. Yes, sir. So I went over to told the battalion commander, the same guy who gave me the promotion, Colonel John T. Lawrence. I'll never forget his name, the third. He said, what the hell is this? He looking at all these disciplinary actions, and he said, okay, I got you. He took all those disciplinary actions and did what they call a set-aside order. He took them off my plate, which made me eligible now for re-enlistment. And what I was telling some people that I'm the only soldier that has ever been in the United States Army out of millions and millions of soldiers who received 5 Article 15s and retired in 21 years as a master sergeant in E8. Now, the rank structure doesn't go any high for enlisted, doesn't go higher than E9. In 21 years is not the norm for E8. Most time people make E8 22, 25 years, then they make E9 before they get to 30. So I'm way ahead of the curve. And the only way I got ahead of that curve, I'm going to reveal this, is that if you don't take control of your own destiny, then your destiny is going to be stagnant. Because if you put your trust in somebody else, and forgive me for saying this, especially somebody white, then you will end up as their servant or you'll be below them because they'll never allow you to get better than them. No matter how smart you are, you can be a PhD holder and they can be a damn college dropout or high school dropout, but they'll be in charge of you just because you have not taken your destiny in control of you. And those are some of the things I went through. And then, like I said, when I retired as at E8, which was way ahead of my peers, I started working for Boeing, and I went in there with a bachelor's degree. And I noticed, this is the last thing I'm gonna say. I noticed that they had this guy that had the night shift, only 6 people working for him, white guy. And I had the day shift with 32 or 30, 46 people working for me. And I was making $10,000 less than this white boy. And the only way I found out, he was stupid enough to throw his earnings statement in the garbage. And I went in the garbage and got it. And then I started fussing about that. And they finally going to give me a raise. The director going to slide me a piece of paper with $10,000 raise on it and expect me to be appreciative. I looked at him and said, that all? All the damn months he done been making this money? So I took the 10 grand. And so they were all pissed off at me. So eventually I got laid off at Boeing after they sent me on a 2-week excursion.
Yes, all right. Listen, man, there's a lot to unpack here in this. And I want to come back in a few minutes and just kind of touch on some of those lessons, because as a Black man, I can definitely relate to having to fight 10 times harder to get to certain positions than others. Few jobs I won't name had similar situations where it was, work all day, come home late at night, and still, the people that were being trained under me were the ones who were getting promoted above. But I like what you said. If you don't take control of your own destiny, then somebody else will always be in control. So we're going to go ahead and take another quick break, and we'll be back in another 2 and 2.
I want to say thank you to you, because throughout this journey of me even wanting to buy a book or write a book or publish a book, and I tried to do it on my own, and I have spent so much money, honestly, with other individuals who say, oh, yeah, we can help you write your book. And they just give you a link, and then that was it. So I want to give kudos to this man right here, Mr. Destin, because not only did he say he was going to help, he walked you through the my accountability, or my BOBM. There we go. BOBM. I always get tongue twisted with that. BOBM family. I want to say thank you guys. We actually have an accountability call that happens every day. And that accountability call that is facilitated by Mr. Destin is a way for us to pick our goals for the week and make sure that we're accomplishing it. And so for you, I want to say thank you for being a man of your word, and for being the person and being one who is pushing and making sure that I stayed on track and that I was able to accomplish what it is that I said I wanted to do, and holding me accountable for the times that I did not do it. And so I definitely want to say thank you. Thank you to you. Thank you for your team of supporters. The feedback was great. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Every day, Monday through Friday, we are on a morning accountability call, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. Those of y'all out there that are interested in taking your book to the next level, learning how to create income streams from your book, definitely visit the website bobmpublishing.com. Again, that's bobmpublishing.com. Now, we've been talking. If you're just joining us again, we're talking with Amazon #1 best-selling author, Mr. Warren Smith, and he already told us a little bit about growing up in Mississippi and some of the things that he experienced, some of the adversity. I'll call it adversity for those with soft ears. We call it racism, but we're gonna call it adversity. And then also talked about some of the experiences that you had in the military, being underpaid and not necessarily being advised of the promotions that you had already received. So what I want to ask is, because there's a lot of history, there's a lot of wisdom that you have to share with us, is what are some of the things, some of the strategies that you say for somebody out there, maybe they're going through that trauma on their job, because that is truly trauma. You know, if you're in a position, you working day in, day out, you're giving it your all, you're giving it your best, and you still aren't being recognized for your efforts. What are some things that you suggest for those people in that position of how they can elevate, how they can get to the next level?
All right, Mr. Sugar Ray, this is definitely a really, really good question to attack right now. The first thing I would tell you is that Black people, I learned this in a psychology class a long, long time ago. Black people would much rather you as a supervisor see their actions, their work, their accomplishments, and what they do on the job. And you out there busting your butt trying to get it right and do it right so your bosses can see that you're an asset to this company. Yes, however, white people, they don't give a damn about that work. They'll walk around with a coffee cup all day and get promoted because they go to the white man and kiss his ass. Excuse me. I'm sorry, but that's what they do. And they will ask for that raise 100% of the time. The white man or boy will ask for that raise. And they'll probably get it because the boss is 9 times out of 10 is going to be white. So that's how you lose traction when you're working inside of a corporate America or even any job. You got your head down on the grinding wheel, you're doing everything, and while they walking around getting promoted. So I would say pay attention to every single thing that goes on in that office. Know the promotions, know the movements. Why did they move this person over here instead of leaving them alone? You have to be on top of your game and pay attention to everything. And don't hesitate to go ask for what you want. If you don't like where you sit in an office, you tell them, I don't like sitting here. If you think you're being underpaid, tell them that you don't. I was in the VA, Department of Veterans Affairs, and I was a GS-9. And I felt like I should be a GS11 because I see the white boys up here and I'm down here. So what they told me was you need to write some kind of job assessment that showed that you're doing the work of a GS11. Guess what I did? I wrote that. I wrote it and presented it, and a few months later, I was a GS11. That's how you operate. But this is how slick they are. I applied for another job, and they told me, well, you can get the job, but you're going to be demoted to a GS9. That's what they did. So, but the deal is it went from 9, GS9, GS11, GS12, and GS13. Okay, I'll step back to a 9 because this is something about the federal government. You will never make lower than you make. So at an 11 step, I'm making way more than a GS9, but they going to put me back at a 9. I'll take a 9 with 11 pay, and that's what they had to do. They didn't think about that part when they did it. So now they already mad at me because I outsmarted them on the system. I got a promotion to GS11 because I took control of my own destiny. Then I got promoted to 11, 12. And when it was time to get my 13, they started harassing me. So there's so many avenues you can take. You have the unions inside of your organization, which ain't about doo-doo. You can use them if you want, but they work for the man. They're gonna decide, they're gonna find a way to kick you out of that office and keep you from getting what you're there for. You also have the EEOC, whatever that stands for, I forgot, but I use them extensively. And right now, to this day, the EEOC accepted my case with the Department of Veterans Affairs, and I have a file about this thick, about 3 inches thick, maybe 4 inches, about 4 inches thick, where they interviewed at least 70 people about my story. And I ended up, right now it's going on 8 years that this case has been open with the Department of Veterans Affairs. And I missed my GS13 promotion back in 2013. So at the end of the day, when I'm done, my objective is to get 13 pay from 2013 to wherever they try to close the case. That's my objective. And that's over 100,000 a year. So that's way over $1 million. So I got that lawsuit. And then I have a lawsuit with San Antonio. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if you go into business like Destin does, and like I did, and like many of you, you have to know how the law applies. They're going to send code compliance at you. Mm-hmm. They're going to send the fire department at you. They're going to send the traffic study department at you. Your parking lots are not right, or some kind of bull crap like that. They're going to find something to delay you. And if you're going into business in a predominantly white area, they can go and protest you having that business there. So you have to kind of sneak through and maneuver. I went to the homeowners association with a portfolio packet that I gave to everybody at that meeting. It was about 30 people there. And I stood up and I told them I wanted to open this bar. And they had to vote on it. And they voted in favor of me while other people were standing over there with you. They did, because I did the presentation and I stood the test of them. And so I had this business for 6 years.
Let me stop you right there, because that's one thing when we talk about entrepreneurship, right? Most people think that entrepreneurship is just this easy street, and it's just because you say that you're now an entrepreneur that all of a sudden the money is flowing, or you're not running into obstacles. And you're touching on some of those, the building permits, and this is for brick and mortar business. The permits, like you said, you had to go to the housing, not the housing authority, but the housing committee. You had to go through those different steps to make sure that your numbers, your paperwork were in order, the laws, the rules, the filing that you had to do. So something that discourages a lot of people from entrepreneurship is just that, it's those obstacles. What would you say to somebody who's just starting off as an entrepreneur?
What I would say is the very first thing you would have to do is learn the paperwork that's associated with your business. Learn the requirements. You know, you have to know those requirements. And this is something most people don't know. If you own an LLC, you must have a certificate of resolution on file at the courthouse, because that certificate of resolution gives you the authority to represent your own LLC, because you cannot represent your LLC unless you have that certificate of resolution filed. Yeah. That's a fact. You have to have it. So look it up. I have copies if you need one, but you have to have that because that's very important. And as far as other things that you have to do as a beginning entrepreneur, you must, like I said, you must know the paperwork. You must have that certificate of resolution, and you must know your capability. And you do that by making a capability statement. So if you're applying, trying to get this business, that business, this business, and other, you provide them with a capability statement, and that capability statement tells them all of your DUNS number, your EIN, your NIC codes. All this stuff has to be listed. And to get into the federal side, you must find your NIC codes, the North American classification something. But it's NAICS. Look it up. It'll help you out a lot. Know your NIC codes. And that's something that will help you very much stand tall in your business field.
Come on now, listen. You just touched on a few things that most entrepreneurs don't have. That like you said, the outside of just filing for your LLC, having your DUN number, having your NA, what'd you say, the NAICS,
yeah,
the NAICS number, having those certificates in place, having your statements in place, and knowing your business, understanding I'm gonna quote something that my elders always said to me: mind the business that pays you, right? And this is all about minding the business that pays you. We're gonna take one more quick break. Listen, it's so much knowledge. I'm definitely gonna have to bring you back because one, I love the energy, right? And two, the wisdom is just impeccable. We're gonna take one last break, and then we'll be right back once again in about 2 and 2.
Everybody has a story, and so do you. We know that you've been through life, been through heartaches, been through pain, been through depression. You've thought about writing your book for years, wanting to help change lives because of the things that you've overcome. We don't know what your story is, but we can help you turn your story into a living, breathing book that creates opportunities for you to impact lives and change the world. The business of books is here to teach you the opportunities that come from your book, how to write your book, how to brand yourself, how to market your book, and how to get in front of the right people to sell that book. We have an amazing team of designers, an amazing team of editors. We have a team behind you to help you get through your first book and get it to the world so that the world knows you are here. So remember, everybody has a story. It's time to write yours.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's definitely time for these people to get their books out there. And we've been talking. We've talked about your story of coming from Mississippi, the things that you encountered there, the obstacles, the hurdles, being in the military and not being properly given the ranks, even to corporate America. not being provided the proper ranks, and still fighting for that rank that you actually earned while in the military. And so what we want to touch on, and let's not forget those business nuggets. If you do nothing else, go back and catch those last 15 minutes talking about what you need as a new entrepreneur, because there's so many of you out here that are starting your businesses for the first time, or just jumping in and have not began to learn what it takes, or being discouraged because it doesn't look the way that you thought it was. This last segment, I want to just touch on your writing journey.
Okay.
What was it like to write your book? How did it come together? Talk us through that process.
Okay. Just forgive me. I need to say one more thing.
Go ahead.
No, on the last segment, know your business, and also, which is what Destin said. Also, don't hesitate to take a job that you don't know nothing about. Take the job. Don't tell them, well, I don't know nothing about that job. I ain't gonna do it. Don't care about all that. Take the job. Somebody will get you there.
Yeah.
Get that money. That's the only way you're gonna get it, is you take the promotions that are available for you and you apply for them. You got to apply. But to what the question was, my journey in writing this biography, you'd be surprised at the information you store in your brain. I mean, you can probably remember sitting on the bar in a banana box when you were 2 years old. I remember that. And I remember my mom throwing an ashtray at somebody. We ran bars all our lives, and I have a bar here in San Antonio. She threw an ashtray at somebody who said something out of line. Command your respect and write your journey, and don't hesitate to tell the truth about it. You may change the name, but the stories are the same. Tell the truth about your journey and put it down on paper. And it takes years, if you are a working person, an entrepreneur, to write your journey. So start your journey now if it hadn't been started. Get the writing now. And you can write probably 100 pages of what happened before this date. And then you just continue every day. You come home, you sit down, relax, come back to where you restore. Sit down and write a couple of sentences. You have to write your book either one word, one sentence, one paragraph, one page at a time. And then you might write a page today, and you might not write another page until March. But that's what you have to do. Always keep it in the back of your mind. I need to write this in my book. I need to write this in my book. I need to write this in my book. And before you know it, you'll have your book together. Like I said, I wrote on this book probably 30 years, because every time I get going in it, get in college, going on it, the military deployed me somewhere. I've been all over the world 2 or 3 times. Lived in Europe, lived in Korea, crazy places. But that's how I would suggest you start this journey in putting your book together, and don't mind about how it's organized. And also the key point would be, you can, when you start your book, you want to do the key points. For instance, I want to write about growing up in Inverness, Mississippi. I want to write about going to high school. I want to write about elementary school. All those are topics. Those are chapters. I want to write about leaving Inverness. I want to write about my first experience in boot camp. I want to write about where I went to and got discriminated against. My first job with the military. I want to write about going overseas. You know, all these are chapters. So you write down those key elements, and you'll be able to come back and tell the entire story. And before, like I said, before you know it, you'll have a book.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And your book is really well put together. Because there's so much, like I said, there's so much history in it. And it doesn't just cover growing up. It doesn't just cover high school. It doesn't just cover military. It covers business. It covers family. It covers life. But you had a little bit of help beforehand that that I'm not gonna let you get in trouble. You gotta get that shout out to that special somebody that
All right.
you a little bit.
First of all, I've been married to my wife 18 years. When we were married, she was trying to get an associate's degree. So she finally got an associate's degree, went on to get her bachelor's degree. She never stopped going to school. Every semester she was in class. The next thing she did, she went on from bachelor's to her master's. And then she went from her master's to her PhD in leadership. So, and I was there the entire journey. And the thing is, I respected that journey. And I gave her the support she needed to make it through that journey. So when I started my journey, she did the same thing for me in trying to put this book together. She read it, she talked about it, told me, write this, write that, don't write this. So she stayed on my back about how I was putting this book together. So we eventually got it done. And I'd like to do a shout out to the woman I'm married to and the woman I love, Dr. Jacqueline Elaine Smith.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Listen, I love when I see that working together as husband and wife and pushing that commitment, because that makes a huge difference. Proverbs 18:22 just keeps sitting in my head. Man who finds his wife finds favor in the eyes of the Lord. And so that is a huge blessing. Now, what was your journey like after you said, you know what, I finally feel like I'm done with it. I'm ready to get this thing published. What happened from there?
All right. Well, Sugar Ray, I looked for the right place. And I already know with the content of my book, I was not going to a white publisher. So I would have waited for years to find your company. And fortunately, like you said, God works, man. I'm telling you, he knew I wanted to finish this book. So he sent somebody to my bar that had a book, that was writing a book. I used to invite all these vendors in to do their products for free and let them try to make some money. So this lady came in one day and she was promoting her book. And I said, well, who produced your book? And she said, Sugar Ray Leonard. No, Sugar Ray Destin. I said, who is that? It's a black man. I said, is he black? And she said, yeah, he black. So she told me who you were. And I made that first contact. And from that first contact, it has been nothing but forward moving. We leaned forward in the trenches and we put that cover together. We did that editing process. We did that publishing process. We did that Amazon bestseller process. And it is nonstop once you get started. You know, that is such a beautiful blessing. And it's the way it was meant to be. I mean, this is like God sent. All this stuff that has occurred in my life during the journey of moving this book from the cotton fields of Mississippi to a #1 Amazon bestseller is a hell of a journey. And it wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for BOBM and Sugar Ray Destin Jr.
Oh man, come on. Listen, that was all you and the team. Luckily, we've been fortunate to have an amazing team behind us to get this thing done. Amazing editors. Ed Robertson was your editor. Troy Howard did an amazing job on that cover, and you did the rest. You did the rest. One thing that you want to leave with the audience.
Well, I would just like to say that you have to be proud of your ancestry and you have to represent what they had to go through, because they fought and died for what you needed to be in this world. And you must, now that you're that adult person, you're going to have to fight for your children, because I'm pretty sure you don't want your children to have to suffer the same fates you've suffered in your life. These obstacles, these glass ceilings that you have encountered in your life, and you had to break through with no worry about your outcome. In other words, when somebody discriminates against you, your character is more important than that damn job. When you went there, you would look for a job. So when you leave there, you'll be looking for one again if you want another one. So don't get tied up saying, oh, I'm going to lose my job. I have to take this stuff. Don't allow them to disrespect you or your race or your heritage, because now they're starting this thing called critical race theory, which is you can't talk about it to your children in school. You can't say that the white man was a slave owner back in the day and he beat black people and he killed black people at will. And the first law with slavery was written for white women, because white women kill more black babies than any white man, and they killed them because their husband was the daddy. So I would say don't give up on your journey and don't give up on your job. Whatever you do, it's always something better. And when that door closed, there's another one open. But you're going to only die with your character and your degrees. That's it. You're not going to die with your money. You're not going to die with that job. And probably nobody from that job will be there at your funeral. So you have to look at a job like work and not like your livelihood. That's just work. That's all it is. It ain't something I love. I never say, man, I love my job. I don't want to work for nobody. I want to be an entrepreneur the rest of my life, and I want you to be one too. Black people got to stand up and start feeling proud about who they are and what we have accomplished. We've invented damn near everything in this country, but we didn't get the credit for it because they took it. Everywhere America has, don't get me started. Everywhere America been, they've conquered somebody, starting from the damn Indians on Plymouth Rock. So they're not going to change. Their eyesight, they see the world different than us. Our eyesight see the world different than them. And because of our vision, we can see we have a good peripheral vision. White folks don't. Their eyes are too close together and their nose ridge is too high. There's studies been done on this stuff that tells you that they don't see the world the way we do. Chinese don't see the world the way we do. We see the world as God sees the world. Black people being the chosen people. That's what I would say.
Yes, sir. And with that, Amazon #1 best-selling author, Mr. Warren Smith. We'll see y'all next week. Love y'all. See y'all next week.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the time.